we'll talk about what the estimated levy is to accomplish that, but the actual issue to be voted on is the authority to issue the debt. And here, kind of looking forward, I had some projections prepared by Piper Jaffray, who's an underwriter, and this is just what some possibilities would be, how much it might cost to issue various amounts of bonds. If we do not have another election, then after 2019, when these bonds are paid off, the debt service levy would be zero. But if we wanted to issue more bonds without increasing that levy, we could have an election to do that. And I've just got three possibilities for what we could do there. One would be if we were only going to pay interest until 2019, then we could issue $9 million of bonds in 2015 without increasing that levy. Or if we said, really, we need to pay principal and interest, then we couldn't issue any bonds until 2019. Or we could issue $51 million of bonds without increasing the levy in 2019. And then kind of another group of scenarios, if we said, okay, let's increase the debt service levy by 23 cents, which would make it 55 cents, then we could issue $45 million of bonds in 2012. And then in 2019, we'd have a choice. We could decrease the levy by 16 cents, which would take it down to 39 cents, or we could keep the levy the same and issue another $33 million of bonds. So as those old bonds are paid off, we have some real possibilities about being able to issue new bonds with a relatively low cost. Another way to think about that is in 2012, we could incur $800,000 of construction cost for each penny of our total debt service levy. At this time, I want to turn it over to Bo Messer. Oh, no, I don't. Sorry. We have a small group work activity.
Thank you, Janet. You've just received an enormous amount of information, so we are going to break at this point. We're going to give you about 10 minutes. We're going to go now to Bo Messer, who's going to give us a presentation in the next segment. Bo?
Good morning. I'd first like to thank Janet Pullen for what I would call St. Joseph School District Finance 101. That's a lot of information that you guys just took in about our school finances, and I've been spending the course of the last year kind of looking into this stuff, and I think I have it down pat, but I certainly didn't capture it all in a 20-minute presentation. But that is a good job. And I think if you guys, once you guys understand this, I think it's worth about 3 hours of college credit. Before I begin, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm here today. My name's Bo Musser. I am, like Jan and I am a CPA, private citizen here in St. Joe. Graduated from Benton in 1996. I am the controller or CFO for Idecker Construction Company. And before that, I spent 3 years as a financial analyst and 3 years as a financial statement auditor. And I'm here today because a little over a year ago, when our operating levy and debt service levy failed, I decided I'd take it amongst myself to kind of look at the school district finances and just see what are those needs, because I think like a lot of people, uninformed. And what I found out was really eye-opening. And so today, what I want to do is kind of take a big step back and give you kind of a big, what I would call a 30,000-foot view picture of St. Joseph School District finances, and show you how we compare to other school districts. And I think, as you'll find out, you'll see that not all school districts are created equally. So the first slide I want to go over here today. Let me do this. Let me start off by saying this. This is a peer group that Columbia, Missouri picked for some data analysis that they were doing. Right here in the beginning, most of these slides you're going to see St. Joe's going to be starred. In this case, we're in the middle. Up above, we got Missouri averages, average peer group. All these school districts above us are St. Louis school districts. You'll recognize Some of these below us here, these are our competitors down, what I would call our competitors down in Kansas City: Independence, Blue Springs, North Kansas City, Lee Summit. A couple more St. Louis schools, and then finally here's Columbia, Missouri. And Columbia, Missouri picked these schools based on enrollment size, and just these are comparable school districts for us. So what this first slide here shows you our revenues as a percentage, our sources of revenue for the 08-09 school year. Now, if you recall, Janet told us earlier that we get 49% of our money locally, 40% from the state, and 11% from the federal government. Sorry about that. Okay, so first thing we'll notice here, blue graph represents our local funding, red is county, green is state, and then finally federal funding is in purple. So the first thing you'll find out here is only independents and amongst our peer group actually receive less money from local sources than we do. On the other end of that spectrum is Parkway. Parkway is a very wealthy school district in the West St. Louis area. You can see they get over 90% of their money from local sources. And while it seems nice that our school district gets 50% of their money coming from the state or federal government, which means every dollar that we put in locally, the state and federal government are putting in another dollar. The problem with that is we rely heavily on funds that we can't control. And so when the state cuts to their budget, we really feel that in St. Joe a lot more so than the vast majority of school districts in the state of Missouri. This next slide is something that most of us all of us property owners are familiar with. This is your property tax rate, and again, we've got St. Joseph in the middle. As you can see, Janet told us earlier that we had approximately $3.72 that goes towards the operations of our school district, and another 32 cents is for debt service. That's the cost of maintaining our buildings, building new buildings if we choose to. And so you'll notice that there's only 3 different school districts in our peer group that actually have a less taxable rate than us, and those happen to be these 3 St. Louis school districts. And if we just we find out here, this will be important here in a second, but a couple other things to mention here. Our peer group on average is spending their tax rate is approximately $4.70. So we're spending, or our taxes are approximately 15% less than our peer group. If we look just at the state average tax rate is approximately $4.30. Our tax rate is 7% lower than that. If you look here at a couple Kansas City school districts, Lee Summit, their tax rate is $5.70. That's 30% more. If we look at another competitor of ours just down the road here, North Kansas City. North Kansas City has a $5.80 tax levy. That's a 31% increase over what we pay here in St. Joe. So we mentioned these 3 school districts they're the only ones that have a lower tax rate than us, but yet they get, Parkway, for example, has a lower tax rate than us, but yet they get 90% of their money from local sources. How is that possible? It's possible because, fortunately for Parkway and unfortunately for us here in St. Joe, Parkway has a huge taxable base, and that taxable base is growing. St. Joe, unfortunately, just doesn't have that luxury. This chart right here shows you how much each school district's local community is contributing to the total cost of educating their students. This really puts it in perspective for me. It's a real eye-opener. As you can see, locally, again, this is our local property taxes and also local sales tax. We're spending $3,900 per year per student. Let's compare that to our average peer group, which is spending almost $6,500 from local sources.